Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome to a brand new Ike Live show. And listen to me for a second. I've got a great guest coming on. Very good friend. Known this guy for a lot of years. You see these gray and wrinkles and all this stuff going on? I didn't have that when we met each other a long, long time ago. Joining us in just a minute, the one and only Ish Monroe. We're going to catch up with Ish, see what he's up to, see what's going on in his life. Before we get into the show, I know what you're thinking right now. You're looking around here and you're saying, man, where are you at? You see this paneling, this wood paneling on the back. I got a barracuda over my face here. We are back in the new studio, and I'm sitting at the production desk here. We had a little water issue in the old Ike Live studio. So it's one of the coldest winters on record here in southern New Jersey. And we had a little pipe burst issue. And because of that, we had some equipment loss in the old studio. So I kind of like this. I think we got to get a few little things worked out here with some stuff. But I like this new spot. I like the mic. I like the acoustics in this space. So don't be worried, guys. Same old show, just kind of a new background here. Let me remind you that Abu Garcia is the presenting sponsor of Ike Live. Abu Garcia, of course, the maker of great rods and reels, including the Ike Series 3.0, available right now. Also brought to you by Tackle Warehouse. Guys, you might be noticing this fly new hat I'm wearing tonight. Pretty dope. It has the new updated Tackle Warehouse logo on that. Look at that. It's subtle. It's a very subtle modification, but I like it. Gives it a little modern look. Head on over to Tackle Warehouse to get all your tackle needs, including the Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels. They're available over there. Last but not least, the show is brought to you by the Ike Foundation. If you want to help get kids fishing, new kids fishing, head over to ikefoundation.org. I did want to say real quick, we had our scholarship dinner on Friday. Friday just passed, and it was awesome. About 250 people in attendance. We broke the $100,000 mark for scholarships, for getting money for scholarships over the last 4 or 5 years. So thank you to everyone that attended. Thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to everyone that donated gift baskets. Really, 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 really appreciate that, and very humbled by all the support over the years for that. So thank you, everybody that came out to the Ike Foundation Scholarship Banquet. It was a good time. We had a band. It was grand. All right, enough of the small talk. We're going to get him on right now. Hopefully everything's working. Joining us now on Ike Live Show, the one and only Ish Monroe. Ish!
What's going on?
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I want to let everybody know, right before we came on, I was a little disgruntled because I can't hear you through the headphones. I can hear you through the audio of the TV, but it's very light. And I was a little disgruntled because, man, my hearing sucks, Ish. And I directly pinpoint that problem to fishing. Do you have any similar, like, do you have injuries or disabilities or physical whatever because of fishing for 30 years? You've been doing it as long as I have.
Back, my knees, all that fun stuff. As we get older, it's, I turned the big 5-0 this year or last year. Yes. Yes.
Damn it, man.
So, yeah, we are now the old guys on tour and no longer the grizzled veterans.
Isn't that strange? It's a little strange. Like the thing that I'm weirded out by is it feels like yesterday to me that you and I were traveling together. We were relatively new at that time. And dude, people had the hate out for us because we're listening to hip hop. We're dressed a little different. Ish, you got
Yes.
your hat on funny. You're wearing this funny. They didn't like that. They didn't like
Yep.
what I was doing. They didn't like
Baggy jeans. They didn't. Yeah. They didn't like your breakdancing on the bow of a bass boat. They didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But now, I mean, that seems like not that long ago, but it was a really long time ago. And now the youngsters are getting hated on because they're all scoping.
Well, no, the new term, and I did not come up with this, is chicken tenders. That's the new
Chicken
term.
tenders.
Chicken. They eat chicken tenders and they drink their juice boxes and they play video games. And I did not come up with that. So I'm not taking any claim to fame on the new version of the Bass Pros called chicken tenders.
Yeah.
I think that's going to catch on too.
It might. But I say that like not to defend the young guys, because I think everyone has to go through trials and tribulations. And
Yes,
you know, I say that because I think in every era, like we've got this new era, and when that era are doing what we're doing, talking and reminiscing, there'll be another era, and they'll be hating on them for something else.
exactly. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it's always something.
100%.
What's up? What's going on? How's life? I know we've talked a little bit, but what's going on? Like, this is the time of the year where most anglers, when I'm looking at them, like I'm looking at you, dude, you look chill. Like you look super chill. Most of the anglers this time of the year, I'm looking at them, and dude, they're stressed out. Like I can see it in their face. You look very chill. What do you got going on? Are you getting ready for the
fishing
season?
bass. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much ready for the season. My boat leaves tomorrow. Dale's gonna drive it back to Rayburn. I'm fishing Bass Opens. I'm fishing here at home. I mean, it's pretty chill overall. I mean, I've learned I'm not getting frustrated. I'm not gonna get caught up in everything, the craziness going on in the industry right now. And I mean, you see it and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're fishing and what you see. There's just this new generation of bass fishermen that doesn't have the same polishness to them that we had growing up. You know, it was a big deal, you know, for a guy. You know, we've both been disqualified from tournaments, but it wasn't because of trying to break rules.
Right.
Like, we weren't out there getting information. We weren't out there getting waypoints. We weren't out there doing anything like that because we cared about the sport. We loved the sport. And to us, cheating in the sport or lying in the sport wasn't a thought process. And so, yeah, things are a lot different, and I can't get caught up in all that. And so now I'm, like I said, happy to be fishing Opens with a great sponsorship support at home, selling product. You know, that's what I think the generation now has forgotten too, is they wonder why there's no money out there sponsorship wise. Is they don't understand this game isn't about the fishing, it's about selling product, and catching bass helps you to sell product.
Yeah. I agree with that, Ish. I think that's the biggest statement in this show. I'm going to predict that's the biggest true statement in this show is what you just said. I believe a percentage of these young new guys have forgotten that. Why is that? I don't think they've
forgotten it. I think that they don't understand it, or they don't want to work at it. It's like kind of like what I see just going on in the world right now. You know, everybody's getting caught up in this AI technology, and AI technology is so you don't have to work as hard. Well, if you really, really want something, and I don't care what it's been from day one, hard work goes a lot further. You know, having something easy, having something handed to you, you're not as appreciative of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. It's interesting. That was Beck that just strolled past. It's interesting because I had Rob Newell on the show a few shows ago, and he wrote a really cool book. Ish, I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet. It's a great read. I read it in, like, honestly, like, I haven't read a book forever, and I read it in like 3 nights. Really good read. But we were reminiscing on the good old days of sponsorships when the guys, I feel like, really understood that game. And we were talking about the day when guys were getting 2, 3, 6 no charge motors. They were getting 2, 3, 4 no charge holes. Like, and we were reminiscing about those days. And Rob straight up said, he said, it'll never happen again. Do you agree with that?
100%. It'll never be like that ever again. I mean, it's funny because I just finished watching Bassmasters, the cast, and they had one of my heroes, Denny Brower, on there. And Denny. When you watch that show, it was like, wow, that was the ultimate Bass Pro. And that's what I got to mimic myself on.
Yeah.
Was a guy like that. And I mean, the kids now, they don't respect or pay attention to the industry or what was built before them. We did. And I think that's the difference. And, nothing against those kids are great fishermen, but I think there's a level of entitlement that they feel like, I just want to go fishing. I don't want to go work a sports show. I don't want to go work at a boat dealership to help them sell boats. And then they wonder why there's no charge holes. I can remember, man, Denny Brower was at every Ranger boat dealership that he could be at. I'm this way now. I'm at every Skeeter and Yamaha dealer that they want me to be at. And these guys need to understand that those are the people that really pay the bills. Winning tournaments is great, but I think all they care about is the trophies. Right. And it doesn't matter about the money to them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if some of these younger guys have the longevity in the sport that some of the old guys like a Denny has had, So like, because I think you nailed it on the head. Like, you come out and you have a couple good seasons, 2, 3, 4 good seasons, but then, everybody's career kind of does these, right? Unless you're Aaron or Van Dam, there's a couple that can keep it, but most of them it's like this.
Koyo Fujita.
yeah, most of them are like this, and then it'll be interesting to see how they get through the downturn,
the low years, yes,
without the sales angle, And
I don't think they make it unless they come from rich families,
right? And there is a lot of that. There is a lot of that now. Yeah. But I would tell these kids, there's a lot of these kids that are dropping out of college to become bass pros, and I'm telling them, man, get that education, because that education is basically priceless. Right. In a lot of ways, right? It's priceless if you want to pursue this career, but it's also priceless if the reality is, if it doesn't work or it hits a brick wall in 4 or 5 years, it's nice to have something else too,
Right.
Yeah. What are you doing with the opens? What are you fishing? You fishing 2 series, 1 series? What do you got?
Just one series right up the middle, because what that 1 series allows me to do is it does allow me to be here at home and focus on selling a bunch of product and fishing a bunch of tournaments here regionally. I think the regional game is coming back. We have a great regional circuit now called BAM. They have a Pro-Am division and what's called a Super 60 division, and the payout's really good and a lot of exposure. And, I come at home and I win a tournament on the Delta, or I win a tournament on Clear Lake, that sells a whole lot of product. And then I can be at, a boat dealership. Hey, this guy wants to go on a test drive on a brand new Skeeter boat. Let's go for a ride. And then that guy ends up buying that boat. That's more valuable than fishing 2 divisions of the opens, because now all we have to do is fish 1 division, finish in the top 50. Because even if I finish in the top 50 in both divisions, it really doesn't matter the same. Right. And so all they need to do is finish in the top 50 in 1 division, then fish the last 3 tournaments, qualify for the Elite Series, and then we put the crew back together again. And oh boy,
I'd like to see that happen. Happen. I honestly, Ish, my retirement is hinging. I'm waiting to get. I have to have the old crew back together at least once.
One year back. Yeah. Well, hey, you know what John's doing? John's going to fish those last 3 open events, And
Is
so
he?
he's like,
Nice.
yeah, he is. So maybe you want to slide on down to old Champlain,
Maybe. Maybe. That might be fun. I might make
Yes. And
that.
you like
Yeah.
and you like Champlain in the fall.
I do like Champlain in the fall. I definitely like it.
Yeah.
Well, I used to like it before scoping came out. But
Before forward facing sonar. It's not called scope. Forward
right,
facing
forward-facing
sonar.
sonar, right.
Active target.
Right, active target, right. The opens, I actually like the change with the 4 and 4, or is it 3 and 3 and 4? What is it again?
It's 4 and 3.
4 and then qualify for the last 3. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that was a good move, but
yes, it was.
But honestly, Ish, I'm cherry picking one. I'm going to fish the Upper Chesapeake Bay, so I'm cherry picking one. And I got to tell you this, and this is just the truth. And I'm not the smartest guy out there, you know that. I'm probably middle of the road smart. Actually, probably below middle of the road smart. I tried to read through the open rules the other day. I am so fucking confused.
Yes. So as of right now,
what the hell is going on with the rules?
You cannot receive any information, but you're also not hindered from talking to your buddies about the place that you're fishing. But you can't get information for where you're at or at that lake at that time of year or that place at that time of year. But hey, if Pete just happens to end up going to the Upper Bay and catching them on a chatterbait, and you guys talked about it, then that's it. But you can't go, hey, Pete, what do I need to do this month, this time on the Upper Bay? That's what you can't do.
Huh. Well, that leaves a lot of gray area.
Huh.
That's a lot of gray.
Very gray.
That's a lot of gray.
Yes, and they're still working on that. Yes.
Huh.
I like just no information all the way around, straight up, schedules announced, no info, period. Take the polygraph. You got no info. You didn't talk about the lake with anybody. Boom. Easy breezy.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That's a good take on it. Now, I have to ask you this. Becky and I, we did an Ike Live at the bar, and we brought this up during that show. But I want to bring it up again with you now that I've got another pro angler on the phone here. What do you think about the no-co's? I mean, obviously there's some pros and cons. Where do you stand on no co-anglers for 2025 in the opens?
My personal opinion, I'm not for it. I didn't mind the co-anglers. For me, there was a couple things about the co-anglers that I really liked. One, those were potential A, boat buyers, B, tackle buyers, C, fans, and that left basically some accountability. You know, you draw a guy that you never fished with before. You couldn't necessarily live in the gray in the rules like a lot of people are doing nowadays. And that's where I kind of wish we still had the co-anglers. I didn't mind them as long as you had those respectable co-anglers. Now, I do know the other side of that is you had what I call some professional co-anglers, guys out there that were trying to make a living from the co-angling side. Well, you're not, if you want to make a living, you're not fishing from the back of the boat. And, you know, I've had great co's all year long last year on the Bass Opens, so I don't have any really ill will towards them guys fishing. I kind of wish that they were there, but overall, I don't know. I wish they were still fishing.
Yeah. Where are they going to go? Like that was a question we didn't talk about, but like in my mind, as you were just saying that, I'm like, oh man, yeah, the reality set in. There's no co's. Where does that group of anglers now? What is their outlet? Like, do they go to a different league? Do they stay local? No. Do they fish regionally? Or
they just go fishing? They just go fishing.
Yeah, or do they forget about tournament fishing? Do they take up a different sport? Do they go to Top Golf on the weekends? Do they do
pickleball? It's pickleball.
Pickleball. Right. Is it like where do they go?
Yeah. That's it. They go play pickleball. They just go fishing and they just enjoy the sport. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that have, come about is guys think, oh God, I got to get a co-angler guy on the back of my boat. Well, think about that as a guy who's going to, help you figure things out. You're throwing a chatterbait, he's throwing a square bill, he's getting a few more bites on a square bill. You need to switch to a scare bill. It's not like you're competing against that dude. You kind of help learn from each other and teach each other, but also look at this as a guy who could be a potential buyer of one of your sponsors.
Yeah.
And the more of those that you have, the better off the industry is all the way around.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, Ish, and you know my story, but if I went back in time and I didn't have that ability to fish those 2 years as a co-angler when I did in the early 90s,
right.
I don't know that I would have, maybe I still would have got to professional level, but maybe not as quick, so it makes me sad a little bit because of that too,
Right. Yeah, the growth. Those are the future up and comers, and now you have guys who are just jumping into Opens and Toyota Series and everything else out there that they didn't actually get a learning curve, because that co-angler was a learning curve for a lot of guys. When I was growing up, we had their old Redmans, and those were boat on boat draws, and a lot of times I would just be like, dude, we'll take your boat, and I just sit back and watch him, especially when you draw guys, Dave Rush, Dave Glebe, all West Coast hammers from out west. And the one person I didn't get to fish with, one of my heroes, D Thomas, which my dad got to fish with, my brother got to fish with that guy. And it's just like, God, the things that they learned and we talked about, it's like, you can't pick that up. I mean, you put a co-angler in the back of my boat, and if he just sits there and watches and we're on a flipping or a frog bite, he's going to learn a thing or two.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sad. I'm sad to see that change. To be honest with you, you brought up last year you had great partners and you had a great year.
Yes,
I have to mention this, and because I talked to you all year, I would text you. You get back from a tournament, we connect. You used forward facing very little last year. You did use it here and there, sparingly. But you fished last year the way you wanted to fish in a lot of those events. I watched some of them. You were doing your thing. Dude, I honestly feel like you proved that you don't necessarily have to rely on that technology solely to do well. Like you were this close to making the Olympics.
No.
This close.
I used it, but I use it different than a lot of guys. Active target, and this is what people should start to embrace, because the more and more prevalent that it becomes, fish get accustomed to it. They get accustomed to the beam. It's like deer and deer sense; they have to constantly change it. But I use it to figure out what the fish like and what the fish don't like. I use it as a tool. It's not my end all like a lot of guys. And so I used it a lot in practice, but I turned it off and I felt like I got a few more bites because of it. My active target was my tool as, the tournament goes on. After we used to have 4 days, 5 days of practice. Like we practiced forever for a dang tournament. And then fish got hammered on. And I think, it's even if you watch the old guys, once again, like Denny used to turn his electronics off when he was flipping. He didn't want any noise, and he fished so quietly. He kept his foot on the trolling motor the whole time. And so those are the kind of ways that I'm starting to fish again, just because, I'm telling everybody, yes, you definitely need active target on your boat, but use it as a tool, not as your end all.
Right. Good thought on it. I want to know, speaking of forward facing, and this is it. It seems like every show we spend too much time on it.
Yes.
We just got done the first Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour, and Ish, I promise I watched it because I was very intrigued on how that premise would work. Right. You get to pick one period for forward facing. The other two, you had the old school fish. And I want to get your opinion, but let me tell you mine real quick. So I watched almost every day. besides the fact that I was a little like still bored with the forward facing thing, because it became a very important period. And it almost to the point where if they didn't have it, they wouldn't have won. So I didn't like that. But Ish, I got to be honest with you. I liked it. Like, I liked the strategy element. I found myself watching it, especially the periods where the guys weren't using it. And I found myself rooting for them in that period where they weren't using it.
Rooting for Talk, rooting for Mark Davis,
Yes,
rooting for those guys. Yes.
Yeah. And I was kind of like, I was like into it. And not a total knock on Bass Pro Tour, but like the last 2 or 3 years, I became really disenchanted with watching over there because I'm sick of looking at people's asses. I'm sick of the same dudes catching them on forward facing. And it made me a little more interested as a fan. So that's my opinion. Did you get to watch it, Ish? What do you think about it?
I didn't watch it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan anymore. You're very nice about it. Me, I'm just not gonna say very much. I did, look at the standing. No, because I still have friends. I still have friends that are fishing and watching Brent Ayler and watching Rojas and them guys catch them still, knowing how they fish and how they kind of fish like I do. They mix it up both and stuff and. Always rooting for my little brother Fletcher and stuff like that. But yeah, to see Talk on top of the leaderboard at one point and see Mark Davis up there, you knew that they weren't catching them using forward-facing sonar. So yeah, it was kind of a root for them. Like I said, I'm not totally in tune. I was just looking at my buddies. But I will be definitely watching, the elites and you guys because we got our pros pick 'em coming up and got to be on board with that.
Yeah. A strange time in the sport.
Yes, very.
I do want to mention this. I just said that, like you watch the forward facing guys and it becomes a little boring or whatever. But Ish, the biggest comment I've had in the last couple years from I'm really, really tight, like you are. I'm still really tight with grassroots guys here in Jersey, South Jersey club bangers. Dude, I love these guys. They're like my brothers, right? The one thing I get everywhere, here at a show, when I'm doing a gig, is guys saying, man, we miss the excitement of fishing. Like the excitement is gone. And your name specifically is brought up a lot. Like people are like, they reference you winning on Okeechobee. They reference you winning on Mississippi River, like the moments, not just the catches, but the losses, like the heartache, like the that. And today's when I watch them now, like I said, I watched 4 days in a row or whatever. I don't see, even when they're not using forward facing, I don't see the excitement level there. Why is that? Why do people feel like that?
I don't know. The emotion's not there. I don't know. Like I said, watching the cast had me so like reminiscing the old days of how we grew up and watching and even listening to Hackney talk about who doesn't want to see a guy freaking set the hook flipping bushes with 25-pound fluoro or 25-pound mono, like, and a half-ounce jig. Like that hook set is bone jarring, and to watch a freaking 5 or 7 pounder come right up out of the water right then and there, like you have to get excited about that. Now it's like, oh, here he comes, he's gonna eat it. Oh, he ate the bait. Let me wind him in on my egg beater, And not to knock spinning rods, they catch fish, but it's dude that flipping stick and that frog rod to me is that sound of braid when it's going through the guides. It's super exciting.
Yeah. I separate these shows. Like we have the Bass University and that's all about instruction. And I try to always keep that separation, but especially now that you just mentioned that, I would feel really bad if I didn't ask you at least one frog question.
Okay.
I feel really bad.
Real bad.
I feel really bad. And I want to ask you one that I know the answer to because I got to watch it. I honestly, I'm gonna give you props here. Everything I've learned about frog fishing that has any value, I've learned from you. So you were a
I
good
appreciate
teacher.
that.
You were a good teacher for me. But I remember before we started traveling, dude, I picked all the wrong tackle, meaning rod, reel. It was all wrong. Like the rod I fished was literally extra heavy. Like you could have like played pool with it. Like
Right.
the reel was the wrong ratio. Like I was doing everything wrong. For guys watching, what is the right rod and reel? And I want you to focus on the rod, because I think the rod that you use, like that action, I've tried to, like, that's what I use now because I've watched how important that was for you. Talk about the rod and reel, but especially the rod.
The rod, Ish Monroe Tattoo Elite Series Frog Rod by Daiwa.
Talk about
That's
the action.
Yeah.
Talk about the action. That is the
I'm
rod.
like,
But talk about the action.
So it actually is an extra heavy rod, but it has a medium heavy tip to it, and
Heavy tip.
that tip is a little softer than what you would want for, a lot of people think about, but that tip action allows you to set the hook on the frog and work the frog properly. And when that fish eats it, you don't pull that frog right out of its mouth. He actually can clamp down on it a little harder, and then all of a sudden, all he's getting is hook. Gear ratio on the reel, super important. Nothing more than 7:3 to 1. A lot of guys go, "Oh, I use it 8-to-1." Well, that 8-to-1, when you hook a 5-pound bass and 5 pounds of grass, you're not going to be able to turn the handle because there's too much torque. It's kind of like trying to ride a 10-speed up the hill. You want to ride a mountain bike in a lower gear to get up the hill, but you still need some speed to be able to work the frog and get a hook set in it. So 7:3 to 1 is the only way to go. Minimum 50-pound braided line and up to 65. You don't really need 80. I catch giant tuna on 80-pound, so you don't really need 80, but 50. And it's not for the line size itself, but it's for the hook set. Because if you snap 40-pound in your hands, you can break it. You snap 30-pound in your hands, you can break it. And so you're using that 50 and 65 for the hook set, shock absorption, and also that the braid floats on top. So the frog actually works properly, but not being dragged down by fluorocarbon where the nose will dig in the water. And then having the right frog, it's just Fat Matt Daddy Frog from River to Sea is probably the best frog. I built the frog around a hook. I built a hook and then we built a frog around it. And so you've got the perfect frog at the top of the bait so they don't hang up, but then it also penetrates the fish when he eats the frog.
Yeah. It's a really, really good frog. And real quick, rod length ish. Rod length. What's the right length?
Rod length anywhere from 7.2 to I would say 7.9, depending on how like my favorite is 7.4. I feel 7.4 is the perfect action for skipping. I have a 7.9 when I need to make really long casts if you're fishing mats or big mats that used to be, on the upper bay and places like that. But 7.4, you're pretty much on a basis.
Yeah, I like that length a lot. That's my favorite length. Real quick, I just thought of this though, and I think we've said this before on one of the shows. We always kind of put you on the spot on this, but give me the Mount Rushmore of best frog guys alive, and and you're on it. You're on it. I'm voting you on Mount Rushmore. You're on it. So give me. Give me like 3 other guys that are Mount Rushmore frog fishermen.
Okay, well, first is the guy himself, and Alfred's still alive. So Alfred is on that list. His number.
We lost you, Ish. Hold on. All right, so we're gonna get Ish back here hopefully in a second. But the question was, if you're watching, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of frog fishing? I would say, here's mine until we can get Ish back on here. Mine would be Ish Monroe, Cliff Crochet, Dean Rojas, and I would put Alfred Williams on there as well. So they would be my guys. But all right, let's get Ish back on. Ish, sorry, we lost you.
Okay.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
So we got Alfred, we got Bobby Barrett.
Bobby Barrett, that's a good one.
Yep, we're gonna throw Rojas in there because Rojas is the guy who basically took the open water frog fishing and turned it into what it is today.
Yeah.
And then I'd add Freddie Boom Boom Urbanis as my number 4.
Yes. Freddie's a good one. I think you're right. You're right.
Casey Baby's got to get it. Casey Baby's got to get a W first before he gets on the Mount Rushmore. He got to get that W first.
Yeah, but Mama said he's the best frog fisherman alive.
Yeah. So, and all those guys have many W's underneath their belts, catching them on a frog. So,
Yeah, I would agree. I'm glad you said some of those names because Bobby skipped my mind and Freddie did, but Freddie definitely should be on there. I agree with that.
Oh, and also you got to remember he's the one who designed the perfect frog. I mean, Bobby's perfect frog is the deal. So you got to give Bobby his credit where it's due. And like I said, Alfred's the godfather. He pretty much started it all. I mean, he's the guy that anytime that you were watching Bassmasters, he was throwing a frog. That was the guy.
Yeah. It was so cool, Ish. I got to meet him for the first time in person at the Hall of Fame this year. And he's the nicest, most humble guy you'd ever meet in the world, dude.
He didn't go postal on you?
He didn't go postal.
He works at the post office. He's a great guy. Alfred,
No.
Yes, he does. Alfred is an amazing angler, an amazing dude, and once again, class act all the way around.
Yeah. He was super, 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 super cool. Very, very glad to meet him. I want to talk a little bit about, we're both getting older.
older, yeah.
And as you get older, I think you get to a point in your life where you want to start expanding, diversifying, doing some other things, dabbling here and there and some other things. Where are you at with this, Ish? Because you've been doing it a long time. You are over 50. Are you at the point in your life now where you're ready to diversify a little bit, or where?
A little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about. There's boat dealership opportunities out there. There's tackle opportunities. There's kids fishing opportunities. There's coaching opportunities now, which that's the kind of the cool thing is some of these colleges are paying coaches. And there's a legitimate lifestyle there too. Still always wanting to fish tournaments, still always wanting to compete. We still have that edge on us, but like I say, diversifying there's a lot of different opportunities out there. Maybe starting a bait company could be a thing, but or just owning a bait company. I mean, gosh, if I could be like GSM, just buy up everybody.
That's true. They are buying up everything, aren't
they? Everybody.
That's crazy. Yeah. So
it's getting back to there's only going to be 3 or 4 companies that own pretty much 80% of it or 90% of it.
Yeah. And that's bad, right? Ultimately, not that those people are bad. I don't want to pigeonhole them and say that people at GSM or people here they're not bad people, but the act of consuming and then having 3 companies holding 90% of the fishing tackle companies, that's a bad thing, right?
I don't say it's bad, but it's definitely, I like when there's diversity because I was part of that early in my career of being under one umbrella for a lot of different brands, and it was hard because it was like I think I had limitations. And when I started to move around and have, you know, my fishing line with this company, my rods and reels with this company, my line with this company, and, you know, having it all separated, there was a lot of opportunity to make money, but I also did have to work a lot harder too. And that's, you know, but I was up for that hard work, and that's super important. Is if you're up for the hard work, I think the diversity is great. If you're not up for hard work, then yeah, the conglomerates are the way to go for most guys.
Right. One stop shop. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I want to revisit this. We did brush on it, but this kind of brought up another topic for me, which is sponsorships have never been tougher ish than right now. So, you know, like, just to give you a perspective, I was at a Toyota owners event back in October and was there with some other pros and had some really good insight on what was happening back in October. And dude, people were losing. I'm talking about, and we won't mention names, but I'm talking about top level professionals.
Yes.
We're losing sponsors like flies. Like they were just dropping like flies. And here we are, you know, a lot of guys are saying, it's the election. It's the economy. They're trying to give it a reason. And here we are post-election, economy's still okay. Everything's good.
Right.
And the sponsorship climate is still in the shitter. Why? Why is that? What's going on?
I think there's a lot of different things, and I don't even know if we have the time to get into all of it.
We need a 3-hour podcast to go.
We need a 3-hour podcast to go. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's a combination of the legitimacy of the guys that are out there. The pie's getting cut lots of different ways. Yeah. Too many different leagues out there, so that, you know, we grew up, there was 2 leagues. Now there's 3, 4, 5, 8. I don't even know how many leagues there are anymore. But there was 2 leagues, and if you were fishing bass and you were on the elites, you were at the top level. The same thing with FLW, and being on the FLW tour was at the top level. And then now things have just gotten cut and sliced, and the fans have been divided. So the fans, you don't have as many fans as you used to have anymore. Then you have the social media aspect of it, and I call them the pretenders on social media. These guys go out there and they buy a jersey and they put all these sponsors on it, and not one of those single sponsors is paying them. They're, hey, well, I've got 1,000 YouTube followers, or hey, I even got 100,000 YouTube followers that I bought. Yeah, and you should sponsor me. But yet I won't really talk about your products. I'll use your products, but I won't really talk about them and sell them legitimately because I have no legitimacy to me. So yeah, and I mean, everybody's got a YouTube channel, everybody's got an Instagram, and none of these guys have won a single tournament in their entire life other than maybe their club tournament.
Right.
You know, when you go out there and you beat a Mike Iaconelli, a Kevin Van Dam, a Skeet Reese, a Rick Clunn, a Denny Brower, guys like that, then yeah, you are beating the best. Yeah. But when you go out there and, oh, well, I won my club derby this weekend and posted all over Instagram and showing a trophy for a $500 check you got in a club tournament when you paid a $500 entry fee, that doesn't count as, you know, legitimacy. And right. So I think that's part of the problem with the sponsorships is, you know, there, and then you're just getting a lot of marketing people in positions that necessarily. I remember when I first got into it, every person in marketing embraced the sport. They knew everything about every single angler that was there. And now, you know, you get some of these marketing people and you tell them about, you know, it's like, who's Kevin Van Dam? Like, whoa, what do you mean you don't know? He doesn't, I don't think that guy fishes anymore. Like, you have no concept of Kevin being the 1,000-pound gorilla that, like, dude, whether it was a crankbait bite or a deep or a shallow water spinnerbait bite, that dude was going to beat you.
Oh
And if
yeah.
you could beat him, because I will tell you this is some of my most memorable times is beating Kevin when I could.
Yeah. Yeah. You come in 20th and he comes in 30th, and you feel like you've
Right. Yeah,
conquered the
you
world.
accomplished. Yes. I beat I beat Kevin. I beat Ike. I beat Ski. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a different world. And I agree with you about the marketing. I think there are a lot of people in marketing now that aren't passionate about the sport and they don't totally embrace it. I agree with that. Yeah. And I agree with the jersey thing. The jersey thing's confusing. And everybody being a pro on YouTube or whatever is confusing to the general public. But I want to tell you something. I want to put you on the spot, Ish.
Okay.
Years ago, I don't even know, years and years ago, you were one of the first guys that was very outspoken about this. Okay.
Okay.
You came on our podcast, other podcasts, and you're like, what the hell's going on with all these posers, all these jerseys? I remember how vocal you were. And Ish, honestly, you got a lot of hate for that. You garnered a lot of dislike for that comment.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. All these years later, you're right. You're freaking right.
Yeah.
And people know it. People are like, they're looking back now like, damn it, I was mad at Ish, but he was freaking right. What? Yeah. Tell me about that. Like, does it feel good all these years later? Like, you were right.
Here's what feels good is I just worked a boat show, and I was working it for Skeeter and Yamaha. And what it was, I took my 2025 brand new boat, did not break it in purposely so that I could take it to the boat show for the dealership, never wore a jersey. And it was funny because there were people around in the booth that had jerseys on, and people didn't come up to them and ask them for their autograph. They came up to me and asked me for my autograph, and I wasn't even wearing a jersey and didn't have a boat wrap on my boat. And these guys were actually looking at me going, why aren't you wearing your jersey? I'm like, because I don't need to.
Yeah.
And that's what feels good is that knowing that people recognize you and understand what you've done and your credibility when you don't even need to wear a jersey. That's when you know you're somebody. When you can go and not run a boat wrap and people still be like, oh my God, that's Ish Monroe over there, or that's Mike Iaconelli over there. That's credibility. And so, it feels good to be right, but at the same time, it's still the same deal over and over again. I mean, gosh, you get on Instagram now and you could pull up 500 guys who have jerseys on, and probably half of them never even fished a tournament before.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, the credibility you have, Ish, you earned it. I want to stress that. Like, if people are watching this right now, you earned it, dude. You've been doing it as long or longer than I have from a competitive standpoint. All those years of the travel, the ups, the downs, the time away from home, the lost
sleeping in the van, sleeping in the truck, sleeping in the Suburban.
You deserve it. You deserve that recognition because you put in the hard work, Yeah.
That's the hard work. That's what I can tell you. Hard work pays off.
Yeah. I like it. We're getting on 50 minutes here, but I did want to, you had mentioned earlier, you have a hand in some awesome products, Ish. Like, when I look back at some of the crankbaits, spinner baits, the river to sea stuff that you did, the frogs, the D-bomb stuff you did with Missile, like, you've had a hand in some amazing products. What's on the horizon? Like, is there an Ish Monroe shaking minnow coming out for FFS?
No minnow coming.
No minnow, no spinning rod minnow Ish coming.
No spinning rod minnow. Because then I got to design a spinning rod to go with it. I'll just borrow Koyo's Daiwa Steve's spinning rod, which that thing is, oh my God, it's amazing. Working on a popping frog. Like I said, just kind of sitting back with John and talking to him with Missile on some things that I'd love to see. I've been talking to him about a bigger D-bomb for a long time because I'm a firm believer in big baits catch big fish. And he's kind of liking that, especially because we got the new monster jig and some other things, from Missile that are fantastic. I wish I designed a spunk shad though. Gosh, that would have been a good one to design. Was the spunk shad?
Yeah, that's a
by
cool bait.
Missile.
That's a cool bait. I like that. I like the versatility of that bait. It could be a trailer. You could put it on a jig head. You could do a lot of stuff with that. I like that bait.
I mean, it was the original jig head minnow. It was
Right.
it was the jig head minnow before the jig head minnow was the jig head minnow.
Right.
And so that's a great bait. But other than that, like I said, just enjoying fishing the opens. Got married a year and a half ago. Loving my wonderful wife. Yay. I mean, those are the things that, make life happy, make you smile every day. I mean, I think about being married and puts a smile on my face. And so those are just some of the cool things.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Ish, I appreciate you coming on and catching up with
Definitely.
you. It was fun to talk about some of that stuff, and I wish you a lot of luck in the opens. I hope you
appreciate that,
dude. You were so close. I hope you go over the edge. From a selfish standpoint, for me, I hope you do it.
putting the crew back together.
Yeah, put the crew back together.
Yes.
Yeah, and also from a selfish standpoint, I hope that some of that diversification stuff that you're talking about, hope some of that falls into place. I think you would be really, Ish, you would be really, really good at some of that stuff. I know you would.
Yeah.
So I hope that happens for you, and wish you the best this year. And
you too. Good luck on the Elite Series. Get a win or two before retirement. You know how it is. Go out with a bang.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to win a big one before you're all said and done. But like you, I'm very competitive, so it's going to be hard to just walk away. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Ish, thank you for coming on the show.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. We'll see you. Take it easy, Ish.
Later.
Bye. All right, guys. There you have it. Man, that was a good one. Ish Monroe carving a little bit of time out for us. He's, of course, over there on the West Coast. So it's pretty late here. It's probably pretty early over there. But some great insight on the sport. Some great insight on the changes that are going on. And really do wish him a lot of luck. I would love to see him go out and make that elite cut and be back on the Bassmaster Tour. Guys, I hope you like these podcasts that we do. We've been doing these Ike Live shows for 10 years. Can't believe it's been 10 years. 10 years of doing the show. And I have a lot of fun. So I hope you're enjoying them too. I hope you're entertained. I hope you learn a little bit. Please, if you're watching this and you have a comment or a question, or if there's a guest or a topic that you want to hear about, please leave that in the comments below. And most of these outlets for the podcast, we have a comment section. Please leave the comments. We would love to hear from you about what you want to see and hear. Want to remind you that this show is presented by Abu Garcia, the maker of amazing rods and reels. Go over to abugarcia.com or any retailer and check out the brand new Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels. We got like 16 rods. We got a bunch of different models of reels, different ratios, left, right, spinning. Go check them out. It's pretty awesome, and they're out now. Also brought to you by Tackle Warehouse. Check out that new logo. It's awesome. Tackle Warehouse for all your tackle needs. Go to tacklewarehouse.com. And last but not least, the Ike Foundation. With all the doom and gloom of where the sport is at today, we have an obligation to keep the sport going. And if you want to help get kids fishing, if you want to help get new kids involved in the outdoors and fishing, please go check us out. Go over to the ikefoundation.org. There's so many ways you can get involved and help get some new kids fishing. So there you have it, guys. I hope you liked this show. I also hope you like this new studio. You might be seeing more of this. You're going to see a little, I don't know. I want to redecorate this area here. You might see a little change in this backdrop. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Ike Live. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish
for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.